Happy Monday, all you Minties. This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition. And join me today for my overview of the What If, the original Marvel Series Omnibus Volume 2 from Marvel Comics. So, let's get started. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on February 22nd. It seems like a rare case where both direct market and book market are getting the book. Lately, direct market gets them later, sometimes they get them earlier. It's been quite a mess, and I'm hoping that the waters will soon calm. But it's not just this cover. What we're looking at here is the standard edition cover. This is the one that will be available everywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local comic book shop, cheap graphic novels, Dying Breed collectors, Walt's Comic Shop, Read Comics, in-stock trades, organic price books. Doesn't matter. This is the one that's available everywhere. And the other two covers, that's right, there's a total of 3 covers. The John Romita Jr. cover and the Bob Layton cover will also be available that same date. However, the ones on the left are the direct market cover, so only available through the direct market. Now, let's take a closer look at this particular cover. So we do have the classic Wolverine killed Hulk cover by Bob Budiansky. I love saying that man's name, mainly because of the Transformers. Anyway, What If, the original Marvel Series, Volume 2. We have an image right there of Wolverine and the Hulk fighting, the Marvel Omnibus logo up there. Then the back of the book, we have some of the covers that are going to be collected in here. Venture deeper into the Marvel multiverse. That's right, this is where they first established different dimensions in the Marvel comics. It wasn't until Alan Moore's run of Captain Britain, I almost said Swamp Thing, I don't know why, Captain Britain, that they called our main universe the 616 universe, but it all really started from here. Now, the book retails for $125. Let's take a look at it under the dust jacket. I love when they do this. So you have the standard edition cover, What If, the original Marvel Series, Volume 2, and we have a What If 90 series omnibus coming. I can't wait for that. And then the John Romita Jr. cover here. Now, let's crack this book open and check out the artwork, talk about the binding, and talk about some of the stories you're going to find in here. Alright, let's crack this baby open. We have some blue end pages, and we have the Watcher right there, creepily watching Jane Foster and Thor. Oh my gosh, look at all the talent here. All your creators, all the writers, pencilers, inkers, colorists, letters, pretty much anybody that worked on the book that was credited at the time is credited here. Love it. The book has 1,024 pages. It's a big book because they didn't leave anything out. Here is your table of contents telling you the What If issue. Not just the What If issue, I'm sorry, but the stories collected in the What If issues, because some of these collected 2 stories, 3 stories. It gets crazy. Like What If 37 right here. Just as an example, this was everywhere at the time. If you all remember, issue 137, who did not have that as a kid, or anybody that got started reading comics in the 80s and 90s trying to find that back issue, the Toys R Us shopping spree. And I asked you all, remember? I don't know if you remember or not. Somebody actually replied to me, or actually a couple of you replied to me with who actually won the freaking shopping spree that put that banner on all our comics. I can't imagine Marvel or DC doing that these days. But anyway, so it starts off with What If the Hulk had become a barbarian? This is written by Peter Gillis, Herb Trimpe, who was, of course, the artist on the Hulk when Wolverine appeared, and actually during this time. So this collects What If 23 to 47. And what's interesting about these particular stories, for anybody that has not read What If or know the premise of it, much like Volume 1, they take these classic stories, classic issues of these runs, and they put a spin on them. Like, this is set during the time of Jarella, when he fell in love with her, and the twist is, what if, not he had become a barbarian, really, but what if he had lived happily ever after with Jarella and gone back to Kai? Like, Hank Pym finds a way for him to go back to Kai, so General Thunderbolt Ross is like, hey, I don't want to fight anymore, Hulk. I just want to send you somewhere where you're the hell away from me. And Hulk is like, yeah, all right, deuces. So he's out. And they go back to Kai. Of course, not everything is happy in Kai, and things happen, and eventually, I guess he becomes a barbarian. Some of the titles, I think, they were doing clickbait before it was clickbait. I love it. But then some of them, oh man, can we not talk about how this was not on the cover? This is by Steve Skaetz, Alan Cooperberg supplying the artwork, the letters, and the colors. But I love this. This is one of my favorites. This is, what if Aunt May, instead of her nephew, Peter, had been bitten by the radioactive spider? I guess that's too long of a title to put on a cover, but it's Aunt May, like, taking Peter Parker his lunch that he forgot, and instead of him getting bitten by a radioactive spider, much like the title says, she becomes the spider person. It's somebody lets you fight Sleepfrog. Anyway, I love that story. I got to read that for the first time when they were collecting them in, was it the classic run, I think? It was these red trade paperbacks, really thin trade paperbacks. Because I had not read a lot of these. But unlike the complete collections and unlike those red trade paperbacks, this is the first time we've had letter pages collected. And I love that about these. And somebody asked me why Marvel doesn't do letter pages for modern runs, like the 90s X-Men titles. And I really don't know an answer to that. I know that, I think if it started with a volume 1 from the Silver Age and they had letter pages, that's when they started doing them. There's this one right here, and that is What If Gwen Stacy Had Lived, or What If Spider-Man Had Rescued Gwen Stacy. The title's always a little bit different than what the actual title in the book is. Now, during this time, it's also interesting to note that this is where you find, like, some of the history of the Marvel Universe's backup stories, like, yeah, the Watcher's talking about the Eternals, for example, right here. This is written by Ralph Macchio, Rich Buckler supplying the artwork, but it's the story in chronological order from the Eternals' perspective. And they do the same thing with the Inhumans later on. And this is What If Thor... Oh, this is the Avengers against the Gods, I think? Yeah, the Avengers... This is one of my favorites in here. This is an all-out battle against the gods. This is the kind of Avenger story I want to see. There's another one in here with Korvac. I have some of my favorites and some that I'm like, yeah, that really didn't work that much. This is What If Captain America had been elected president of the United States. Also, Ted Sallis keeping... Man-Thing keeping Ted Sallis' brain right there. I think this was a Frank Miller cover. Now, while I may not have read a lot of these until they came out in those affordable trade paperback formats, I did get a lot of single issues. And, of course, being the X-Men completist that I was, these are some of the ones that I went after. And, oh, man, this one here has, one of my favorite endings. And that was the thing I was used to because I was reading the 89, 90s series of What If. That every one of the What If stories has to have a miserable ending, is what I gathered from it. That no matter what little small change happened in a particular issue, whether it happened in, for example, issue 137 of Uncanny X-Men, they change it to where, Jean Grey, or Phoenix rather, had lived, it's going to end bad for everybody. So when I got the single issues and I went back to get this one, I'm like, oh yeah, that's like what we're doing these days in the 90s. They still have a bad ending, but yeah, I like the twist in this one. Let's move on here. I think this is the Daredevil one, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's weird because it starts off with, like, the cover. Yeah, the cover is What If Daredevil Became an Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And down here is like a little, oh yeah, what if Ghost Rider and Johnny Blaze were separated? But it starts off with Johnny Blaze. I guess they wanted to sell the title more on the Daredevil story. I remember... This is the way it was in the complete collection. I want to say this is one of the rare issues where I felt like the colors were touched up a little too much. They looked a little too modern in that particular issue. I rarely noticed that. I think they do a phenomenal job with the art restoration. I think as close as we're going to get to the original, of course. But that one right there stood out because the rest of the book, I think, does a phenomenal job of the restoration on artwork here. I want to say this is the Wolverine story right here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. What if Wolverine had killed the Hulk? guest starring the Uncanny X-Men. So something like this, you know, that's exactly what you get out of the book from the very beginning. There's a 2-page battle. Hulk is dead. The rest of the issue is like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants trying to recruit Wolverine, changing his character up a little bit from the character that we know in the pages of Uncanny X-Men. Then, of course, because of when these stories were written, they added a few things in here, like James from Alpha Flight is in here. Things we didn't know about at the time. Alright, this is probably a little biased here. Non-X-Men stories in here, this is my favorite one. There's another one with Conan that for me is a 10 out of 10. But this one is just, this is just the type of Avengers stories I want to see. What if the Avengers had become the pawns of Korvac? Oh, this is nothing but just all-out war against the Marvel Universe, and it's the Avengers. Greg LaRocque applies a lot of the artwork. Some of you probably know him from his run on Flash. Mark Grunwald wrote this particular story. Just look at how many panels he was using. This is insane. Let's keep going. This is one of the covers, of course, the Bob Layton cover, I believe. What if Dazzler, man... If ever a Dazzler Omnibus comes, I'm sure that will be included in here. And speaking of Omnibus, some of these stories were collected in Omnibus formats, in epic formats, like the Thor and the... This is the two-parter right here. The Thing and the Beast. I've always loved that cover. This is one that I had as a kid, because I had the Beast. But what I was saying is, like, Thor fighting Conan the Barbarian had been previously collected. And a couple of others you'll see through here. Now, this one, I want to say this one makes me feel old. This is, okay, this is a good story right here with the Vision. There's David Michelinie right here. So, this is like a future, I think in 2032, if I'm not mistaken, is when this story takes place. And it's about the Vision and his wife. Can find out who that is later. This is Captain America. I don't know about the... I love when they put a date on these comics, but the Daredevil one I think is supposed to take place in 2013. Yeah, Daredevil 2013. Yeah, right. Where are my hoverboards and flying cars, man? I do dig the artwork, though. Reminds me a little bit of Frank Miller and Rick Leonardi, but I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's Alan Cooperberg, maybe? Yeah, it is. There is the Thor battled Conan the Barbarian. Which there's a couple Conan stories in the What If series, like what if Conan was stranded in modern time. And yes, of course, going back to some of these stories, you're going to see like, wait, that's already happened. There's a John Byrne story in here. Let me see if I can find it. Back here, issue number 36, What If the Fantastic Four Had Not Gained Their Superpowers. This, of course, I think was collected already in the John Byrne Fantastic Four Omnibus. But it's really cool to see, you know, him drawing them before he went on to do the title ongoing. But I thought this was a better story, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of that particular cover. That's just creepy. But what if Susan Richards died in childbirth? Man, this is a dark story. I like the twist in this one, what ends up happening to the Fantastic, or Mr. Fantastic rather. And then sadly, of course, the series started declining in sales. There were a lot of ideas thrown in by fans, writing in some of the like titles that they would work on, but I guess, I don't know, sales went down. I'm not really sure why they decided to cancel the story, or the title rather. Although at the end of issue 47, I do like some of the covers though towards the end, because it's Bill Sienkiewicz doing the covers. Like, look at that. This is the final issue. That is a freaking beautiful cover, and of course he paints his covers. But yeah, at the end of this issue, there's like a right here is a little blurb from Ralph Macchio talking about how they have another story. What if Doctor Doom had kept the powers of the Silver Surfer by Stan Lee and Butch Guice, and a two-parter X-Men What If story by Peter Gillis. So it's like they were advertising, but for right now they're taking a break from What If. Interesting, because the next time we see What If, it's not until 5 years later in 1989. And here is some of the house ads. Love that they collect those. Cover art, it's Michael Golden. So you have a lot of talent that worked on these. Here are the full paintings of, yeah, they include them in here. I used to have this. This is the best of What If. Yeah, this one came out in the early 90s. Because I thought it was a one-shot comic. I didn't know any better. I was a kid. And these are the classics. These are the classics I was talking about with the red border on them. and then Complete Collection Volume 4. Now, let's talk about this binding. 1,024 pages. Here is what the eye looks like. It's a big eye. Not a lot of spread pages, of course, but the book lays over really nice. This is printed at the Donley printer. Just for those of you that keep tabs on where these books are being printed, but this is the way that it laid. I just showed how it laid over towards the front and towards the back. It's a beautiful addition to these classic stories in your library. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your confirmation email from CGN, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you are picking this up, and if you are, which cover you're going to get. Let me know if you finally remember this particular What If series, or is it the 90s series, or was it the one-shots that came later? I would love to know all those answers in the comments down below, and if you have any questions, leave those down below as well. This was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to check out our spread shop and Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And more importantly, everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.